What up, y'all? This is your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. We're going to be doing a rebranding of sorts, stepping things up for all the people who have supported the podcast over the years, provided more content, different content, and improving the quality, but we can only do that with your help. So I did what any content creator would do who has a loyal fan base. I created a Patreon. Today and going forward, you can support this very podcast by going over to patreon.com/hiphopnow. Don't worry, the link is in the description. You click it, you go there. There's 3 tiers of ways you can support. You can be a one-time supporter or you can be a monthly supporter. Let's keep it going in 2020 and beyond by visiting patreon.com/hiphopnow. Drop it on the random. What up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about history and nostalgia, but more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. With me in 2020, the homie Tony of IntoTheDome.com. Happy New Year, bro.
Hey, man, Happy New Year, bro, to you and your family. Sipping on some ginger cayenne right now, because I know there'll be some other things I'll drink later today. Kickoff time, man, but everything is good, man. Glad to be back, man.
Definitely. And, you know, if y'all don't know, it's Super Bowl Sunday, so we trying to knock it out early, but that's besides the point. But please know that this podcast is available wherever you listen or watch podcasts. So if you go to IntoTheDome.com, not only will you get to hear the audio version, but you can also watch past episodes because we got about 50 of them. But definitely, if you enjoy what you are watching today or what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button, share with people you know enjoy this type of hip hop content. Show your support, because that's the best way to keep this podcast and other things we got going continuing to go on. And we're going to do a little segment right now called This Month in Hip Hop. And this month in hip hop, born on February 1st, 1975, Big Boi of Outkast. Now, Tone, goes without saying, Big Boi is a legend in the game, a part of a legendary group. But we're going to honor him on his birthday, man. Your impressions of this brother as an MC, legacy in the game, everything.
Look, man, I'm from North Carolina. First time I heard Outkast, it wasn't just all about Andre 3000. We said Outkast is dope. I still say Outkast is dope, because if you go back right now and listen to their discography, Big Boi is not some sidekick. He is not the stepchild, bro, of that group. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Big Boi's an amazing MC, dope flow, underrated lyrics, everything. You know what I'm saying? He can make beats. He had a successful solo career with some amazing work. You know what I'm saying? Outside of the work with Outkast. You know what I'm saying? And I just tell you, man, unfortunately, I would say that he's probably, even though he's a legend, as just an MC, he's one of the most underrated MCs ever in hip hop. Like, go back and listen, forget the Outkast stuff, go listen to his solo career, and I'm gonna tell you, you will actually be shocked if you really didn't do the knowledge on what he delivered, man. And you know, I was listening to Aquemini the other day, and I'm gonna tell you, Daddy Fat Sack was killing it all the way through the album. You know what I'm saying? And he blazed on ATLiens too. You know what I'm saying? So it's just this myth, man, about everything being all about Andre 3000, because Dre was so gifted. You know what I'm saying? But look, man, I'm a Big Boi fan. He's well respected within the industry. Cats know he can rhyme. Cats know he can go. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, my first impression, I always thought he was dope from the first time I heard him rhyming on Southern Playlist Cadillac Music, the single. You know what I'm saying? And Players Ball, I thought he was right there on par with Andre. They had some of the best chemistry I've ever heard in rap history. They still are right there with the chemistry of Run DMC, Trop, Tip and Fife, and Eric and Parrish. When I think about, you know what I'm saying, just meshing together, they're right there with them, or just as good as any duo ever pick the mic up, man. And a lot of it does go to Big Boy. Credit the Big Boys for a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was your impression?
I felt like you know, obviously there are a lot of people who love to take groups and say, you know, who's the best out of the group. And a lot of times people say 3 Stacks, like quickly with no thought, as if Big Boy is Pras from the Fugees. And
Right.
he's nowhere near that at all. I think people got to think about the fact that when people say it's one of the greatest hip hop groups of all time, it's a group. And it means it, you know, it's a team, and together they're creating something, you know, magnificent, to the point that, you know, you would say that they're one of the greatest groups, if not the greatest group of all time. And like you said, Tone, you know, after Outkast as a group stopped making albums, Big Boy continued to make music and continued to do features. And he even got better in a lot of sense, because I think now, not having to conform to a group format, now he can explore ideas that he probably had that he didn't explore as a part of a group. And all it's done is made his music even more powerful. And he's carried the torch for Outkast, you know, in that regard. And I think originally when the Love Below speaker box came out, you know, I'm a big 3 Stacks fan. And obviously, that's the one I'm gravitating towards. But Speaker Box is crazy. Like,
it is.
If that was a solo album by itself, I mean, you don't really need the Love Below. I find myself going back to Speaker Box more than I go back to the Love Below.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And it has a lot to do with this dude's skill and knowledge of the hip hop game. And I think it's in general, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as because people just constantly just write the narrative of, you know, when it comes to Outkast, 3 Stacks is what matters, and Big Boy is cool. But I mean, you gotta listen to them bars again, man. The Quemini, even Southern Playalistic, like there's a lot that Big Boy's been laying down as an MC throughout his entire career. So definitely got to give him his respect on his birthday, and give him his flowers now, man, because, you know, life ain't promised, and you can't be glorifying these dudes and buying their albums and singing their lyrics and posting everything when they're gone. He's still right here, still making music. So now's the time. You know, I'm saying happy birthday to Big Boy.
Absolutely, right, man. Yeah, the fact sets. Happy birthday.
No doubt. All right, so now we're going to get into the point of the main topic of the show. And Tone, this one, you know, we keep the show like around an hour, but we can literally go on for 3-4 hours just talking about this year in general, man. Tell people what we're here to talk about today.
Look, you know what? There's always a debate and conversation about the greatest year in hip-hop history, the most important year or years in hip-hop history, the most important era in hip-hop history, where the best albums come out in a certain specific period of time in hip-hop history, etc., etc. And for me today, we're talking about 1996. And I've always been consistent for the last 20 years as I'm saying 1996 is the second best year in hip-hop history in terms of music and albums, next to 1988. Now, anyone listening, you can go back and Google 1988. I'm not going to talk about that year right now. Google that. It's just a year that just set the whole tone for the golden era of hip-hop and influence that led into the 90s. But after that, there were great years, man, but I don't know if there was a better year than 1996 outside of 88 for music, for new MCs dropping albums, MCs dropping sophomore albums. We'll get into all these details. Also, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about 1996, of course, The East and West Coast battle was still going on, and Tupac dropping 2 albums that year and tragically dying that year, which for us in the hip hop community, and I'll be brief on Tupac, Tupac's death for us was like when rock and roll stars in the 50s lost Richie Valens and Buddy Holly. You know what I'm saying? It was tragic. It was like when we lost Marvin Gaye. You know what I'm saying? It was like that for our culture. We couldn't believe it because other rappers had died before. Eazy-E was a big loss just right before that, less than 2 years before that, I believe. So that was a big loss. But Pac loss was just magnified just because of his aura, the death row signing, the music, the controversy, and things like. And he was also a movie star, celebrity. He was loved by not only the fellas and the guys in the streets, but the women loved him as well. You know what I'm saying? So he was a full-fledged superstar in the making. He was Will Smith before Will Smith. You know what I'm saying? So us losing Pac and unfortunately 6 months after that led into, we know that it was probably a connection with Biggie getting killed. 96 is important as far as a mourning year as well. But just with the music, Vega, look at at what I have right here in my office of 1996 albums, and the list is so long. And I believe I went to the record store seriously every Tuesday that entire year.
Yeah.
Get all these albums, and each album I got, I was like, man, might be better than the last one I got last week. Like, it was a continuous year of quality music, man. Like, we're going to get into the albums, man, but this is what's your initial thought when you think about 1996?
Man, I think about, like, everything you just said, man. You think about Tupac's Death Row run happening all within that same year, from All Eyes on Me to his death to Machiavelli to like Hit 'Em Up, and like just all these things that, you know, somebody younger who wasn't around or somebody who just wasn't paying attention to hip hop like that, they may look at that as something that happened over a span of 2, maybe 3 years of different things happening, album dropping. Man, this all happened in 1996 alone. You know what I'm saying? Tupac is in prison and then he's free, and everything you see from that whole death row period is in 1 year. Like you said, man, I think when I think about 1996 and the music, obviously there are a ton of classics, a lot of dope records. But like you said, with 1988, you had more so. What was dope about that year was you had like a new school renaissance of rap. You know what I'm saying? And it was a bunch of debut albums, and they were all classics. And you had some of that also around, you know, when Wu-Tang dropped in like 93, and Illmatic and Biggie and Wu. It kind of happened sporadically over different years, and a lot of people like to call that a golden era.
Right.
But in 1996, not only did you have classic debuts, but you had people returning for sophomore albums that were dope. You had people who had been around who were putting out dope albums. Like, so it wasn't just new school artists. It was some cats who was already seasoned that were releasing. Right. And I think the number one thing that really stands out to me about 96, and like you said, when you start to look at those albums, the lyrical bar was very high at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Everybody was competing with everybody. Biggie competing with Nas, Jay-Z trying to get in there, Redman doing what he doing, Tribe trying to say we still here. Like, you had so many different artists and elements all happening within the same year. I think West Side Connection, was that in 96 also? Or they had a single or something?
Well, no, they were there. And it was funny about West Side Connection real quick is West Side Connection, for anyone who don't know that is, I'm sure most listeners or hip hop heads know who they are, but it's Ice Cube, Dub C, and Max 10. So they released the single Bow Down, you know, you know, they were upset because they felt like, you know, on the West Side, Bow Down was like the number one song at one point, you know, on the radio. and they couldn't get East Coast spins. And Mac 10 talked about that on Beef One. He talked about, it was some favoritism because they weren't even playing our music on the East Coast. And we had the number one album at one point too. You know what I'm saying? So, the West Side Slaughterhouse, joint was underground, and you had the West Side Connection debut album. So yeah, man, it's 96. East West Coast still having some issues. It's the height of when Bow Down came out was around the time, Machiavelli era, whatever, because the album didn't come out until I want to say October of that year. But nevertheless, Ice Cube and West Side Connection were still touring, and they were still on the road that whole year anyway. So they were heavy factors. And speaking of West Coast, real quick, you still had in 1996, MC8 dropped the album. Razzcast dropped Soul on Ice.
Soul on Ice.
You know what I'm saying? So there were West Coast, the Eazy-E's straight off of, out of Compton came out that January of 96, and he was still getting love. I think he passed away with his music. So the West Side was still having, a nice resurgence again post Death Row, and he still had the rise of Ice Cream Man with Master P and No Limit was that year. Silk the Shocker was dropped that year, and so now you got the Deep South really starting to make a little noise on the underground and transitioning into some commercial success with the Shocker doing some features with some R&B artists, and people from the Deep South knew about Master P. They knew he was coming because he was a legend in the street with music and stuff like that and other things before he popped off to like the New York crowd or the West Coast crowd. They knew him in the Deep South, and then transition from West Coast to Deep South. UGK had been around a little while, but they dropped Riding Dirty. You know what I'm saying? And Riding Dirty was a huge album in 1996, and they were a huge group, and Outkast were influenced by them a few years prior. They talked about that. So you still had the West and the South still putting out a lot of music in 1996. Outkast drops ATLs. Yeah. People thought that Southern Club, listen, that might have been it. They come back 2 years later and they are lyrically better.
Yeah.
ATL, and that production was insane. When Elevator dropped, and you can admit this, being in the New York, Jersey area, when Elevator dropped, everybody was like, wait a minute now. Okay, this ain't just some players ball and crumbling herb. These cats are lyricists. Yeah,
I remember the first time I heard Elevators. I think I didn't know this record was out. I just heard the beat come on, and I was just like, "Yo, what is this?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Also, I believe Goody Mob was out too, and I just remember like the sounds of Cell Therapy and Elevators, and it was real grimy sounding, and that's one thing also with 96 that I think people need to know. Across the board, from Master P to the West Side, everybody was like in a grimy bag. With the beats had to give you the stink face when you hear them. And I remember when I heard Elevators, I was just like, this ain't the same group. Like, this ain't the same group at all. They are on a whole nother level with it. You know what I'm saying? And I think it was dope. One other thing I wanted to point out, because I just learned this recently. Ice Cube was on Talib Kweli's show that he has on hiphopdx.com, and Talib brought up, the whole West Side Connection thing and blah, 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 and asked him about it. And Ice Cube said something that I think that's very important for hip hop fans to know and to hear, because of revisionist history. People pretend as if things didn't happen, but Ice Cube said he made what he made in regards to Bow Down and going against the East Coast in New York, but it wasn't about the fans or even the artists, because he said the fans loved us because we still did shows over there, and the majority of the MCs we knew loved us, but radio and print in New York are looking at you, the Source magazine, even though they put them on the cover and all of that. They probably was some stuff that happened, but definitely radio, meaning you DJs, you NY DJs, was showing favoritism to what was happening in New York because New York was hot at the time,
You know,
which I think is kind of foul. But so what were you gonna say?
yeah. Not to cut you off, I'll give the source one bit of credit though. Even though Ice Cube had beef with the radio stations and the clubs in a lot of respects on the East Coast, this is one of the times the source got it right because if my memory serves me correctly, someone can look this up. West Side Connection got 4.5 mics off their debut album. You know what I'm saying? So that was huge. They did. They got 4.5 mics. You know what I'm saying? So that's saying a lot in the midst of East Coast, West Coast, and Tupac bombing on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So that was big of the source. I think it was well deserved because the album was dope. It had some dope singles. You know what I'm saying? You had that King of the Hill on there, if I'm not mistaken, that he was actually, they had a couple of songs going at Cypress Hill at the time. They had West Side Connection has some issues with Cypress Hill. You know what I'm saying? And it was really Ice Cube and Be Real because of a song from the Friday soundtrack. And you guys can check that out. I think on Beef 2 or Beef 3. I'm not sure off the top of my head right now, but they went in detail about their issues. But of course, they ended up squashing that, ended up being fine. They still ride. West Side Connection was still riding high on this, Common. You know what I'm saying? From almost a year prior to that, issues with Common, and they did that West Side Slaughterhouse. Common did The Bitch and You. I want to say it was produced by Pete Rock. So you had that little thing still going on at the time. But yeah, man, that's kind of the way it was exciting in 1996 because, like I said, you had East Coast factions, down south, you had the West. You know what I'm saying? You had like you said again. Let's talk about sophomore, and we'll go to debuts in a minute. But I'd like to go to the sophomores first, if I could, since we're talking about Outkast.
Hold up, let me do this real quick.
Okay.
To just run down the line of what was released, and then we could just go into because I don't think people understand, Tone. Like you said,
oh my God,
a lot of money.
Oh
you know what I'm saying?
Oh
I don't think people understand this list. Two albums, right? All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli. The Fugees hit big with The Score. Their sophomore album. Nas came back with It Was Written. You had Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. You had Mobb Deep's sophomore album, Hell on Earth. You had The Roots with Illadelph Half-Life. You had De La Soul with Stakes is High. Tribe Called Quest, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Redman with Muddy Waters. Busta Rhymes with The Coming. Ghostface debut album, Iron Man, Razzcast, Solo on Ice. UGK, Riding Dirty. J. Rue the Damager, Wrath of Math. You had MOP's album, Firing Squad, Exhibit, At the Speed of Life, which was his debut album.
Yep.
Muhammadia's Collage was 1996. Lost Boys, Legal Drug Money, they had a lot of big hits. Foxy Brown's debut album, Il Nana. OGC out the Boot Camp Click with The Storm. Master P, Ice Cream Man also. You had Helter Skelter with their debut album, Nocturnal, Sadat X, Wild Boys, Eazy-E, Straight Off the Streets of Compton. What else? We had Too Short, Getting It. We did a Too Short episode, if y'all don't know. You should check that out. Skills, used to be Mad Skills. From Where? One of Tone's recommendations, Nine, Cloud 9 was released in 1996. The Ghetto Boys, The Resurrection, came out in 1996. God damn, this is crazy, man. Poor Righteous Teachers put out a new album, New World Order. Lord Finesse had The Awakening. Ice-T dropped Return of the Real. MC8 with Death Threats, and Bow Down with the West Side Connection. Tone, I mean, where do we start?
Well, that's an amazing list. Let me add a few more. Shyheim, The Lost Generation. I love that album, man. Keith Murray, Enigma album.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Big Boy, not Big Boy, Big Noah episodes of A Hustler. And I talked on another episode about just hanging out with Big Noah one time, which is just really hilarious. Eminem's debut album, Infinite. A lot of people, if you're an Eminem fan, a real Eminem fan, you should know about Infinite. Go back and listen to it. He sounds like AZ. Blase album.
Blase.
DJ Shadow album.
Mm.
Introducing DJ Shadow, Smooth the Hustler, Once Upon a Time in America. You know what I'm saying? With they hit single that I still love to this day, Broken Language with Trigger the Gambler, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh God, just so many. Let me see if I have any more. I think you hit most of them, man. But yeah, that year, that rundown to me is only rivaled by 2 or 3 years ever. With 88 being the top one for me, but this right here can be argued, man. So just real quick, we're talking about Outkast debut AT Aliens. You know, you had several other, well, not debut, sorry, sophomore album, excuse me. So now you think about Nas, It Was Written, comes out that summer as his sophomore album. People, you know, in revisionist history and some of the print to me is BS because I remember going to the record store getting It Was Written, and I had a Walkman. Back then we had Walkmans, and I had a CD player Walkman, which was an upgrade from the tape Walkman I used to have. So I put It Was Written in and walked back to campus. I didn't even go get my car, walk to the record store because it was like a mile down the street. So I had to walk and do the knowledge when I buy a new CD. I get to the message, and I'm like, Fake Thug, No Love, You Get the Slug. I'm like, oh, this how Nas started the album off? This is the first run to the album. Fake Thug, No Love, You Get the Slug. I didn't know till I was drunk, though. I was like, the beat was sinister. It had that thing, Sade sample or something like that. I was like, oh, wow. And so it went on into I Gave You Power and all this stuff. And I'm like, when I think about what people talking about this commercialism or this, It Was Written, I'm like, well, what It Was Written was y'all listening to? Street Dreams was the single.
It's one song that they use to color the whole album, which is If I Rule the World, which has a traditional hip hop beat because it's Friends from Whodini.
Yes. You know, Nas talked about this several years ago. He said he never understood the thing about If I Rule the World. He said, man, I was influenced by the 80s. That's Whodini. You know what I'm saying? And that's my single with Lauryn Hill, who was on fire in 1996 because of the Fugees. You know what I'm saying? And they both was on Columbia. They were label mates. You know what I'm saying? So it was a perfect single. It was a hip hop single. You can listen to it on the radio, riding in your car. Whatever. Outside of that, the album has songs like Take It in Blood, Suspect. You know what I'm saying? Shootouts. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Where are these commercial live nigga rap? You know what I'm saying? It Was Written was a hard album. Nas was at his peak. To me, lyrically, his flow was different. I mean, my thing was, for real artists, they're supposed to progress as total artists as time go by. His storytelling, even though, One Love is a very dope story about somebody being in jail, but 2 years later, you do I Gave You Power, and you rapping about a gun. So you are technically a better storyteller. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you had that sophomore album. You had, who else was a sophomore album at the time? Outkast, them. You had Redman's Muddy Waters. Fugees. Well, Redman's, that's his third album. Fugees' second album was just, Blunt on Reality, their debut album was okay. It was good. They had a couple of nice joints on I think like Vocab and stuff like that. But when the score came, the way they set those singles up, and then the way they released the Killing Me Softly video and all of this stuff like that, that was a flawless release of a sophomore album in terms of the way they presented it, the way they did the singles. The album was very diverse. You know what I'm saying? It had an island reggae feel to some songs. It had an R&B feel to some songs, hard hip hop on it. Diamond D, I believe, helped out with some of the producing, and what's your other guy name? Did a lot of production on there as well. Salaam Remi.
Salaam Remi, yeah.
Did a lot of work on that, man. But what was your thoughts on that Fugees album?
Yeah, I was shocked. Like, I remember, obviously, Salaam Remi did the Vocab remix. Because I remember I wasn't really feeling the Fugees like that until I heard the Vocab remix. And I was like, damn, that one's kind of funky. Like, I like that. And I remember the first time I heard Fuji live, and I couldn't believe I was listening to the same group because I was
Yeah,
like, who is this? Wyclef coming in? We used to be number 10. Now we permanent one. I was like, yo, who's that? Like, this is the same
yeah,
group? You know what I'm saying? And then I heard Ready or Not. And when I remember people were telling me, because I'm a hard sell, you know what I'm saying? So if I didn't really like you before and couldn't find redeeming qualities besides the fact that you had a remix beat, I'm the type to kind of be like, all right, well, let me see what else is there. But I just kind of remember there being a lot of people who were talking about it. So, you know, I wound up listening to it, and I was blown away by it because I couldn't understand like what changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, what did they do differently this time around? And like Tom said, I believe it was just production based. You know what I'm saying? Because you can always hear that they could rhyme. You know, the lyricism was there, but the
yeah,
production wasn't there the first time around. And I think this time, having like Diamond D, excuse me, and having Salam Remy bring what he brought to the vocab remix really did a lot. So I mean, I walked away just feeling like, man, you know, this album is incredible. Like, I can't believe it. Amongst everything else that was already happening with other artists, it just seemed
yeah,
impossible.
yeah. And you know what? That they showed they could rap on the debut, but they got turned loose on the score, and you got to see all of Lauryn Hill's talent from the singing to the rhyming and everything. You got this chance to see Wyclef. It sounded like Wyclef went. It's like basketball. He went to the gym every night, was practicing or something. But Wyclef rhyming, just his patterns, everything he was doing musically was just even sharper than the debut album, man. And they just really did some amazing things on that album, man. But that's the great thing about that year, man. People came back with his sophomore album. J. Rue the Damager came back with his sophomore album, Wrath of the Map, still produced totally by Primo. But yeah, let me do this real quick.
Oh, don't
Babe.
forget Mobb Deep, Hell on
Oh,
Earth.
absolutely. But that's their third album.
That, well, yeah.
Technically,
To most people, they just
yeah,
Juvenile Hell, they be like, that didn't happen.
yeah, we say it didn't happen, but it did. But we'll roll with that. But something else happened in '96 too. As great as 1996 was, there were 3 albums in 1996 that kind of dissed hip hop. They kind of dissed the state of hip hop and kind of dissed their peers. And let me say, De La Soul Stakes is High. They really had issues with the industry, and they really had issues with the way a lot of rappers was rapping and the perception, the way hip hop is supposed to look to fans, and how hip hop was kind of going against the purity of the culture. If you listen to the lyrics in the title song "Stakes is High," and what they were saying, they were dissing a lot of rappers. You know what I'm saying? Well, without saying their names. Even and True Ball was even dissing videos. I'm sick of shaking asses. You know what I'm saying? I'm sick of talking about Versace glasses. Sick of award shows. What else? He was dissing. You know what I'm saying? And then the Roots third album, which is we're gonna say is their sophomore album, because people don't really consider Organics in much outside of probably people true fans, I guess, from back then. But they had Organics, Do You Want More, the Ill or Death Half-Life. But anyway, most people consider Ill or Death Half-Life their sophomore major release. And on that album, what they do, they did the video. They were kind of dissing a lot of videos that was kind of New York type inspired. You know what I'm saying? So you had them doing that. You also, just rewinding real quick, the Fugees made some comments that kind of rubbed Tupac the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So that was some kind of dissing undertone. Then you have, like I said, De La Soul. You have the Roots. You have J. Rue the Damager's Wrath of the Math. He does that song One Day. You know what I'm saying? And all this stuff. And he's dissing Puff, Biggie, and a lot of New York rap. You know what I'm saying? He's from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of tension, not just the East Coast, West Coast tension. There were New York rappers and groups throwing a lot of shots at each other. You had OGC dissing Biggie Smalls and Bad Boy. You know what I'm saying? You had the issues with Boot Camp Click music at that time dissing Bad Boy. You know what I'm saying? Which caused a year later for Biggie to drop Kick in the Door, which was probably written in 1996 because the album dropped early 97. You know what I'm saying? So 96 also some dissension within New York and East Coast hip hop. Forget what Pop was doing for a minute. We had issues at home. What are your thoughts on that, babe?
I remember, man, like niggas was picking sides. Like it was like, yo, who are you a bigger fan of? Obviously, I was a huge Boot Camp fan, a huge J. Rule fan.
Yeah.
But Biggie was my favorite rapper.
Right.
I was not feeling them. I wasn't feeling them shots. Like to this day, Rap for Math, I can't even listen to it because I was just like with Boot Camp, I ain't necessarily boycott their music because I just figured, okay, well, whatever. But the fact that J. Rule was kind of making his album almost themed, everything he was putting out was almost themed behind talking bad about him, was kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way. So I just was like, well, I don't care about that album. I don't care about him.
And it was blatant.
Yeah, I know it was dope. I mean, when I heard stuff, it was dope, but it's just them lyrics. I always felt like, you know, I can understand his opinion and I can agree to a certain extent, but I didn't think he needed to, given the fact that he had his own level of popularity and skill. But what wound up happening to me when you talk about the infighting in New York, the West Side Connection and Pac, Fugees and Pac, and the Roots from Philly saying something, and Outkast really speaking with their music, with the South got something to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that was happening around 1996 that to me kind of led to all of this was the fact that some people were making a lot of money off of his music now, more than rappers had ever made before. And people were looking like, well, why is this person getting this more than me? And why is this person this tier? And why are they getting more spins? And why can't my joint get played? Or why can't I get the cover because I'm coming back like this? So there was a lot of jockeying for position because there's a lot of money being made that in 1988 they could have only dreamed of.
Absolutely.
In regards to hip hop. So I kind of felt, I felt some kind of way about a lot of it. I felt some kind of way about Ice Cube being one of the dudes who I've always loved, saying New York in general, me not knowing he ain't talking to the fans, but if you're talking to my favorite artist from NY, you're talking to me. But I just thought it was crazy to have all of that going on and all this dope music at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, some people, that was a competitive spirit, and RIP to Kobe Bryant, just thinking about a competitive spirit. These rappers and groups, they weren't just talking trash, they was showing out with their music as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it wasn't like empty, I'm running to the radio just to talk. They had the music to back up their feelings. When Black Thought did Rhymes on What They Do, let me tell you, it struck nerves because you fast forward almost 5 years later, when Nas and Jay-Z is battling, Nas at the radio station blasting on everybody because he's upset, and he started talking about the Roots doing that live performance with the King of Champagne. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then he was talking about What They Do video. He's like, yeah, they're disrespecting the legacy of East Coast New York videos and stuff like artists. So Nas was talking about that 5 years later after Black Thought said that. You know what I'm saying? So these guys all had their ears to the streets. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Tupac heard what De La Soul was saying on Stakes is High. That's why he dissed De La Soul on Machiavelli. You know what I'm saying? Tupac dissed all of these guys on Against All Odds on Machiavelli, which I said was Tupac's best diss song. He wasn't yelling and screaming. He was focused. He said, I got my money right. I'm ready for war. And he went at everybody. You know what I'm saying? And that's how competitive 1996 was. He said something about De La Soul. He said something about Nas, Biggie, the Fugees, everybody. He even said, hey, LL Cool J, rock your bells, nigga. You know what I'm saying? On a mixtape that year. So it was real that year. You know what I'm saying? And the infighting was, again, man, it was backed up by the music. It's crazy how so many undertones were going on at the time. It's like It was like civil war in hip hop.
Yeah, it was. It was. You know what? That's a perfect analogy. You know what I'm saying? Especially when people think about the comic book and the movie with the whole Civil War thing. Because as you were talking, I was thinking about like it was more of a subliminal time. You know what I'm saying? Except for Tupac. Tupac said it, but hit him
Yeah,
up. He was like, "Yo, I'm saying people's names." But there were a lot of people who weren't, but you knew they were either targeting somebody or responding to somebody. I mean, you had Prodigy on Drop a Gem on them, basically
woo.
talking back to Tupac, you know what I'm
Had the whole New York
saying,
State aiming at your face.
at your face. And I was like, oh, wait, this is getting crazy. You know, you have Nas on It Was Written, kind of taking shots at Pac, but also taking shots at Biggie, you know what I'm saying?
That's
About the
right.
Keep New York thing.
And
You
then
had Jay
also,
with the, what'd
yeah.
you say?
Oh yeah, you also had Pastor New said, like the West Coast kids, they be throwing up signs. I hate a Buster, unless his name is Buster Rhymes.
Oh, yeah. Woo.
Pop throwing up the signs.
It's crazy because you think about that. You think about Jay-Z finally kind of getting his way in
Yeah,
as a solo artist, and you know Tupac mentioning his name. And I remember I heard this on a mixtape not too long after Tupac died, and I was like, if Jay-Z made this after Tupac died, this is the hardest diss record I ever heard in my life. Even though it was somewhat subliminal, but it was a joint with him and Source Money, Dead or Alive. Like that joint
absolutely.
surfaced right after Tupac died, and it was like, what's going on in hip hop? Like, you know what I'm
So let's
saying?
take
It
a
was
quick
crazy.
moment. You from Brooklyn? Let's take a quick moment to acknowledge Jay Z real quick. Jay Z had been around for a long time. I went to UNC Greensboro here in Greensboro, North Carolina. I remember when Original Flavor used to come down and perform. Jay Z, of course, was underground. People that know who he was down here. We knew Ski because Ski is from Greensboro and grew up with one of my homeboys. So Ski used to come around the record store. He was a cool dude who made beats. You know what I'm saying? He went up to New York. You know what I'm saying? Didn't really know anyone. Made connections. Next thing you know, he's doing work with his own little group and got in good with Dame and all of them. Started producing for Jay Z. You know what I'm saying? Jay Z did, what's that joint in my lifetime and in my lifetime remix in like '95. So some people in New York, of course, is like, yo, that dude Jay he's pretty nice, man. And we start hearing about him down here. The Dead Presidents dropped. It was like, okay, now this dude can rap. All right, we heard him on Ain't No Nigga. That was slick. That was cool. It's in the clubs. It was on another Professor soundtrack, whatever. When he dropped Dead Presidents, Cass was like, yo, this dude Jay-Z can rap. And then at that time, these Clue mixtapes and Tony Touch and all that, other songs from Reasonable Doubt started leaking. You know what I'm saying? Like Brooklyn Finest leak. Can I Live leak. And we like, wait a minute, that dude went naked, toe to toe with Biggie Smalls. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, so then somebody like Tupac, he on his radar. Like, wait a minute, this dude doing videos with suits on like he's running shit. You know what I'm saying? Pop like,
Yeah,
yo, who was this cat? Another little New York drug dealing cat. And he talked about this in the interview. You know what I'm saying? So Jay-Z started, you know what I'm saying, catching the eyes of all these people after this Can I Live and Brooklyn Finals with Biggie. It's like, okay, he's serious. And then Reasonable Doubt drops that summer, and everybody like, wait, have you heard that Reasonable Doubt album? Oh,
yeah,
okay, Jay-Z serious.
yeah. I remember when that summer I was working in Manhattan at like Chase Manhattan Bank. It's like, you know, a nice little summer job. My first summer job, like right after my freshman year of college. You know what I'm saying? So I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling like, you know, I was a business major at the time. So I'm feeling like, yeah, I'm a business major. I got this job at Chase Manhattan corporate office. And I remember, man, they wasn't giving me no work to do, Tone. I was just coming in, punching in and listening to hip hop all day. And I
Wow.
remember when It Was Written dropped and Reasonable Doubt dropped. Either they dropped the same day or a week apart.
It was a
Something like
couple of weeks apart. It was close.
it was a couple weeks apart. I
Yeah.
remember like in NY, those were the two that summer. Those were the two albums that was bumping out of everybody's car.
It was the next week. It dropped the next week.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense. But I just remember hearing either one. You either heard somebody playing It Was Written, or you heard somebody playing Reasonable Doubt. And I was doing the same thing, you know, as a fan of Jay Z. And I just remember, man, like 1996 was so crazy. I was telling this one dude about Jay-Z before that drop. This was early in 96 because I had like a sampler tape that had, a couple of records on it. And I remember him listening to it and saying that Ghostface Iron Man is better. And the thing that people don't get when they say that is Ghostface was releasing an album featuring Raekwon. This is after Cuban Links.
Absolutely.
This was like expected to be Cuban Links 2, basically. And it was dope. That also came out in 1996, Tone. I don't think people understand. We ran down the list, but I don't think they get it. Like, there was a lot going on.
I mean, amazing. Yeah, man. That's and that's when you know you have a legendary year because you putting up amazing albums against each other, and there's no wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody feel like Reasonable Doubt is better than it was written, that's fine. Somebody feel like it was written is not better than, Iron Man, or Iron Man better than Reasonable Doubt, that's not a bad answer. Because if you go back and listen to Iron Man right now, yeah, it's a classic. It can go neck and neck with everything else that came out that year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're not losing. You know what I'm saying? So that makes perfect sense. But back to Jay-Z real quick, that was the emergence of an MC who is now, by a lot of people, considered the greatest MC of all time, or either the most famous one, the largest one. Even if you don't think he's the best one, that was the year that it emerged, and now he ended up being an icon in the culture, in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that started really in 1996. You know what I'm saying? He does the Dead President's video, and who's sitting beside him playing dice or whatever, Monopoly or whatever? Biggie Smalls. Who else is there? Smooth the Hustler sitting right there. You know what I'm saying? Another Brooklyn guy who was on fire at the time with Broken Language, and then Once Upon a Time in America. AZ is over there also as well, and noticeable in the video. And, he's this dope Brooklyn MC, came alive on Life's a Bitch on Illmatic, dropped Do or Die the next year with Sugar Hill and all these tracks with Pete Rock, and, the Firm was starting up around that time and everything like that, man. So I wanted to make sure I gave a little segment to Jay-Z, who is one of the GOATs right now. His rise started, in 1996.
Yeah. And I like, when you think about it, I mean, it's like everything kind of opens up something else. Like, even with us talking about, infighting between New York MCs, West Coast and East Coast and all of that, then you got within groups, you got a Tribe Called Quest is on the outs, you know what I'm saying? Phife and Q-Tip are on the outs, and they just released two back-to-back classic albums in Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders, and here they are with Beats, Rhymes, and Life with a harder edge to it as far as the sound, because look what's out, look what's out at the time. And they're introducing Consequence. And I think one thing that kind of gets lost within it all also is the simple fact that Bad Boy was running radio, but Bad Boy didn't have any major releases out. It was just a lot of remixes. It was a lot of features. I believe Junior Mafia album was out, so Get Money was all over the radio. Players Anthem was all over the radio.
And Kim was coming as her own.
Yeah, I think people need to understand in 1996, though Biggie's debut album came out before then, Biggie was all over the radio because of all these things we mentioned, you know what I'm saying? And it was I guess it was a thing where you did not only have, and it wasn't just Biggie, but you didn't only have Biggie and Jay-Z to a certain extent doing this, but you also had these rappers appearing on a ton of R&B records. So rap was like everywhere at one point, where it wasn't just the music they was putting out, but everybody wanted to have a rapper or rap or whatever on their albums. And, when you look back at a year like this, man, all this music, all these things that are changing the culture of hip hop, what Tupac is doing with his music, with what he's saying, what the magazines are doing, as far as Vibe magazine and the Source, like as far as reporting on all this stuff and keeping us up to date on what album's out, who's hot, who's beefing with who. It's insane when you look back at it, man.
Well, because you got a situation where can anyone name another year outside of that golden era of like 88? You had Rakim, Kane, KRS, G-Rap, whatever. 1996, you had Tupac, Nas, Biggie Still Hot, Jay-Z. You had the Lost Boys. You had Redman dropping Muddy Waters, which some people argue is his best project. You had Ghostface still carrying a torch of Wu-Tang, but then Raekwon is still popular because Cuban Links came out less than 5-6 months before 95 was up. It came out late 95, so Wu-Tang is still very large in 1996. You know what I'm saying? You got the West Side Connection still large. Like I said again, Lost Boys had 3 songs on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Lost Boys is large in the club. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, Bahama Deal had a dope album, man. And just, you had a situation where a lot of people were at their height, man. And again, you got Tupac still kind of, on fire. You know what I'm saying? And people still comparing him and Big because he hit him up. And, and then he passed away. And then it's like, okay, it's a rough time for the last 4-5 months of the year. You know what I'm saying? But people were still putting out amazing work, man. And, Tupac had, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So, for hip hop heads, we started hearing people taking shots at him, songs that hadn't been released yet. You know what I'm saying? And then some of them leaked. Mobb Deep Hell on Earth album drops. They couldn't drop a gem off. You know what I'm saying? But Drop a Gem was vicious. You know what I'm saying? And the lyrics were vicious. You know what I'm saying? And it was too late. It already started circulating. And, Jay-Z and Sauce Money, Dead or Alive, there's a rumor that Jay-Z performed some of that at the Apollo. You know what I'm saying? And nobody got the film to it, but people were saying some of that. And I think it might have been some other lyrics added to it as well. So there was people coming at Biggie was going to name pocket some of them songs, trust me, at some point. He just didn't do it yet. And then he died. I think they probably made sure they didn't want to have that kind of energy. But if you listen to Life After Death, just March of that next year, you heard them songs. You heard tracks where you was like, man, it's not my downfall, but what's that other track that people, I can't think of the name of the top of my head right now, but there's a track on Life After Death where, he was banging Pop. You know what I'm saying? And it might be my downfall, but at any rate, no, Long Kiss Goodnight.
Long Kiss Goodnight, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's Long Kiss Goodnight, man. You know what I'm saying? So, but I say all that to say that just shows that everybody was in a war mentality, man, in 1995 and releasing some dope music at the same time. But yeah, man, just looking at this list, man, it's really. Another thing too, I want to say, 2 young guys who dropped albums that I still listen to this day. I mentioned Shaheem Lost Generation, but this other young kid from Long Island called A+ had an album called A Latchkey Kid. You know what I'm saying? And A+ is very dope young MC, dope voice, dope flow, kind of have an AZ feel to it. It remind me of Ali Vegas a little bit as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Shaheem and A+ were very dope. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget about those projects they did, man. Again, man, I'm just still looking down, man, at some of those joints from an exhibit. Paparazzi was one of my favorite songs of that year.
Yeah.
Oh, I do remiss if I didn't say this. You had briefly talked about Tribe Called Quest and some tension within the group. We knew that was probably the last time that really was working together up until their final album for Fife Pass. But another thing happened that year as well is, and we know Jay Dilla had already been working with the Far Side and doing stuff with his own group. But him joining the with Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Q-Tip put him on the mainstream, and it got him work with Janet Jackson, Velvet Rope, Got Till It's Gone, and then later the Soul Aquarius and working with Erykah Badu and all these people. So we can say 1996, also the year that Jay Dilla was really given a bigger opportunity by working with Q-Tip, and they ended up doing Q-Tip's solo album, a lot of the work on that, and they put him in the mainstream and became a very sought-after producer who actually could make any style of beats. And some consider Jay Dilla the greatest beat maker, or right there at the top, close to anyone who ever made beats. So 1996 is also a very important year for Jay Dilla as well. Man, I wanted to bring that to the attention of other listeners also.
Yeah, I think that's a dope point, man. Like, again, people got to understand. Like, you can look at any year and say something was in the works, while dope albums were coming out. But when you look at this year and we're dropping names like Jay Dilla, Wu-Tang, Ice Cube, Tupac, Death Row, like all these different, Jay-Z, Nas, like Biggie, all these different names and figures in hip hop and legends. Cannabis was on the mixtape circuit around that time, so people were starting to hear little rumblings of his bars. Like, there was a lot going on in '96. There was a lot of people inspired. A lot of people were checking out hip hop. A lot of people were making money off of hip hop. Finally, and it was like really dominant, man. And I think 1996 makes a huge case for probably the second best year ever in hip hop. Not just because of what was released, but because they all raised the level of competition amongst one another, and even went at one another. I mean, let's not forget also, Kicking the Door had some bars for Nas. So
yeah,
it's, when you think about it, man, there was a lot going on, and it's just a remarkable year when you go back and look at it, when you listen to these old albums or whatever, and or classic albums in a lot of cases, you're reminded about a lot of this stuff. Well, go ahead. What was you gonna say?
One more thing too, because like we said, we talked about, of course, Jay-Z becoming Jay-Z, Jay Dilla, and all these other things that happen important that manifested into how hip hop is today. I have to go back again and make sure people understand that. We talked about Master P dropping Ice Cream Man. Now, Master P becomes more and more popular leading up to the next year. He dropped Ghetto D, I think, in like '97. So, if Master P don't pop off in '96 the way he did, you might not get. So, No Limit becomes one of the biggest brands in hip hop. That inspires Cash Money, Baby Slim. You have the Lost, the Hot Boys, Lil Wayne, who now considered one of the legends of the game. They're from the tree. They're from the tree of Master P. You know what I'm saying? So Master P becomes popular, a lot more popular in '96. Ice Cream Man, that matriculates into Cash Money. You know what I'm saying? And the South. You know what I'm saying? The Deep South becoming very, very popular, man. So I think that's another important point to make sure we stress that a lot of different branches of hip hop that's still being affected to this day happened in '96. What if Jay-Z don't pop in '96? What if it was written flop? It was written in flop. It's still Nas' highest selling record to this day. You know what I'm saying? So what happens if Nas don't become Nas when it was written? Maybe there's no firm. Maybe there's a lot of other things. Dr. Dre don't work with nobody on the East Coast for a little bit more period of time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What if Infinite would have popped for Eminem and he didn't do the Slim Shady persona? He would have been an underground dude rapping. He'd have been like a lot of other underground. He would have became a star.
Yeah, you bring
good.
up. Yeah, you bring up another point, another branch. Dr. Dre leaves Death Row. You know what I'm saying? So you got all this stuff happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, that opened the lane for Eminem, which eventually opened the lane for 50 Cent. Eventually opened lane for Griselda Records. You know what I'm saying? If you want to really talk about it, because in the case of 50 Cent and G-Unit, and in the case of Griselda Records and Slaughterhouse, Eminem wanted to sign them. Nobody else wanted to sign these guys. None of them, including Griselda Records. It wasn't a bidding war. It was really easy for Eminem to scoop these groups up, especially 50 Cent, who was basically being blackballed. So, like Tone said, man, there was a lot going on. There's a lot of people being influenced by one another. Everybody's trying to pop in one way or another. And amongst the fans, there are becoming divisions because there's a lot of hip hop coming out and a lot of people marking their territory. And as a fan, people,
one last thing,
so
one more point to make real quick too. I want to say one more thing real quick. Another legend was born to me. It was popular a little bit before that, but when Busta Rhymes dropped the Coming or whatever, the Coming, his debut album, Busta Rhymes becomes a huge star. Now, we knew about how he did on Tribe Scenario, Leaders of New School, and Flavor in Your Ear. Everybody, Busta's dope. But when he did his debut solo, The Coming, you know what I'm saying, he becomes a hip-hop star. You know what I'm saying? He starts setting trends. He becomes one of the best cats ever with doing videos. He becomes one of the best live performers ever in hip-hop. And all this really started manifesting when he came into his own in 1996. And then he also creating the Flip Mode Squad, and I think that helped also carry on the tradition of previous groups like Boot Camp and Woo and all that. You know, Bust is very important to hip hop, man, and his coming out party was The Coming in 1996.
Yeah, which is crazy in itself, man. We all knew he was a star in Leaders of the New School, and to have that solo album drop and him to blow the way he did, and to not even be anything like anybody who we've already named, just meant that there was a wealth of talent and skill in hip hop, and it was all, you know, blossoming at the same time. Big shout out to E40 and Drew Down also, who dropped some albums that year. You know, can't forget them. But what do y'all feel about the year 1996? Is it the best year ever in hip hop, with the best albums or the best time? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments in the comment section below. But now we get to the point in the show where we recommend something you should go listen to. And we decided we're just going to recommend stuff that dropped in 1996. And one album that dropped in 1996, late 1996, that we didn't mention, that's my recommendation, is Lil' Kim's debut album. Now, Tone, listen, man, y'all all seen the picture. Y'all all seen the photo with the squad. That was before the album dropped.
That was on my wall.
That was on all our. That was on everybody's wall. That was right on my wall. Also, man, it was the first time in hip hop where we had a female MC who was confident in her sexuality. Not to say that Queen Latifah and Lil' Kim, I mean not Lil' Kim, MC Lyte and the MCs from that time weren't, but they typically the typical prototype for female MC in hip hop around that time was they had to be almost rough and tough as the fellas. You know what I'm saying? Voice wise, what they said, how they dressed, more importantly. And this was the first time Lil' Kim was like, I'm a woman and I'm sexy and I could still spit. And I just remember the first time I heard hardcore and I loved it, man, because as much as hip hop, especially back then, can be misogynistic with the lyrics, this was that, but it was the reverse. And that's what I loved about it, because I don't think we loved records about the ladies just because they were trashing the ladies. We just liked the talk. And it's the same thing that Lil' Kim did, doing her own versions of Dream, the R&B dude, and like Queen B, Queen Bitch, Crazy, like everything. Let me just go over a couple of songs I like or loved off of here. Big Mama Thing, I love that joint. No Time with Diddy in the video. Crush on You, obviously, the one with Lil' Kim and Lil C's. Drugs. We mentioned Queen Bitch, Dreams, like Not Tonight, the remix, which was like Ladies Night joint. Just so much that was dope on this album. It was so raw, and it played off of a hardcore porno theme. That's why it was called hardcore, but it was really about hardcore hip hop. And that's what I loved about that album. Hands down, my favorite Lil' Kim album. Tone, what did you think about Lil' Kim's debut, Hardcore, and what's your recommendation for this week?
Man, Hardcore is blazing, man. The production was tight, lyrics tight, guest appearance tight. Everything about it was just dope. It fit right in with 1996, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, before Lil' Kim, you know, MC Lyte and Latifah and everyone before, they dressed more baggy. They could rap their butts off, but it wasn't gonna be sexually like you know, infused, nothing like that. So Kim is like the mother of the sexy hip hop, and at that point she dressed sexy. You know what I'm saying? She did the female version of what the dudes was doing. I mean, I wasn't mad at her. You know what I'm saying? She was, because chicks thought the way she thought too. You know what I'm saying? A lot of women thought the way Lil' Kim was thinking at the time, man. So I respected that. She had a dope voice. You know what I'm saying? She was so cute, dope look, sexy. That picture, that poster got every dude in college who had a girlfriend in trouble. You had to argue with your girlfriend. I'm not taking that poster down. You know what I'm saying? I'm leaving it up. You know what I'm saying? So whatever. You know what I mean? But the songs you named were all dope. Man, it's just amazing album, man. You know what I'm saying? I think Foxy Brown Il Nana came out a week later. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
she kind of carried that same kind of thing, man, and had production from Havoc and everything like that. So, but anyway, man, yeah, Kim joins very dope. It's my favorite Lil Kim album to this date. So that's what it is, man. My recommendation is technically it's Mobb Deep's third album, Hell on Earth, but most people consider it a sophomore album. People, you know, every time you drop an album like The Infamous, you're a little nervous that how you gonna follow that up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, can you follow up something that really most people consider a perfect hip hop album? The Infamous has no bad beats, no bad rhymes. Every song stands on its own. You listen to them right now to this day. It's one of the best produced albums in rap history to me. Prodigy was pretty much flawless with his brand of hip hop and his brand of storytelling. Havoc was very dope on that as well. And then you follow it up. I remember hearing on a mixtape, I believe it was Hell on Earth Frontlines, and I was like, oh, they back at it again. You know what I'm saying? And you know, then when I get the album, I walk back again that same summer. I mean, that same year, I'm walking from the record store. I put it in the CD, the headphones. I hear the Animal Instinct come on, and I'm like, oh my God. And they say, yo, you did it again. That sinister beat. That sinister beat come on while having them talking. I'm like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? And they say, you know how we did on the Infamous album? We did it again, niggas, you know what I'm saying? And let up in the cut. Watch rap niggas fuck you up. I was like, oh my God. The mob is back. And they go right from Animal Instinct to Drop a Gem. And I'm like, oh, this shit at Tupac. You know what I'm saying? And they say, I got the whole New York State aiming at your face. You know what I'm saying? And they was aggressive on that song. And Prodigy was in his bag, as they say, man. And even Havoc was, you know, he was dope. He was also underrated. And I'm like, okay, Mobb Deep is back. They didn't miss a beat. You know, you listen to the rest of G.O.D. and all of this. And I'm like, man, that album, you know, it was just as good as the Infamous. Every beat was hard. You know, you had Give It Up Fast on there with Nas on there. You had that Bloodsport with Meth on there. You had a joint on there with like Red Ghost. It was dark and gritty. It was probably darker than the Infamous. You know what I'm saying? And it's Five Mics to me. It's a classic to me. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about it, man. I was just so happy that, because again, it's so hard to follow up a landmark album.
Yeah.
And they followed it up, man. Classic Five Mics, man. What was your thoughts?
Man, first of all, Prodigy was at his peak in '96 lyrically, man. When I heard him say, what's the line? You know what I'm saying? Talk about robberies in Manhattan. You know what happened? 60 G's worth of gun clapping. Who shot you? You probably screamed louder than the opera. New York got you. Now you want to use my mob as a crutch? What you think you can't get bucked again? Once again. Yo, when I heard that, I was like, oh, shit.
Yes, man.
I was like, and that's what people need to understand, man. Like, as dope as Hit 'Em Up was when I heard it, just for me, just off the strength, and I was a big Biggie fan, I just like the fact that Tupac said it. He's like, yo, I'm saying your name. But the way Prodigy came back on that verse was just...
He said his name without saying his name.
Exactly. Because look, we know what happened. 60 G's worth of gun clapping. Like, we know about the shooting at Car Studios. We know about the jewelry. Like, it was well done for a diss record that doesn't include a man's name. But again, that album, Godfather Part 3, taking some of your favorite mafia movies of all time, Scarface, and making an incredible beat out of it. And you know what I'm saying? Right now, pay attention to the Crime Run Houdini P. Like, classic Mobb Deep. I'm with you, Tone, man. That is a classic album. I think at the time I was overwhelmed with hip hop, so it didn't hit me as quickly as like my sister, who was loving it like out the gate. But when I did like listen to the entire album, I was just like, it's just too many dope records coming out this year. It's overwhelming. I don't have enough money for all of this.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
It's crazy, man. But 2 very dope albums. Y'all need to go out and check them out. Lil' Kim's Hardcore, Mobb Deep's Hell on Earth, both classic albums from 1996, amongst everything else we named. But obviously, leave your comments in the comment section below if you got any thoughts about anything we said. And remember to share this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, hit that like button, do all the things that you got to do as a listener, as a viewer of this content, and show your support to what we're doing right here, man, because we do it for the passion and the love of the game hip hop. On behalf of the homie Tone of IntoTheDome.com, I am your host, Vegas. We're going to see you next time, man. Go out and support real hip hop. Peace.
Drop it on the random.